Welcome to part 4 of my first ever oil painting. So this one has a theme of a trippy Route 66. I kind of wanted to make it a cool, almost like a dream of Route 66 where a bunch of weird things are going on and there's that cool abstract element. So I'm starting off now with adding a little train above these mountains. I kind of want it floating in the sky. I'm going to add some train tracks. But I have it beside that little UFO. Thought it was kind of cool just to add something in that corner so it's not all landscape. I want to have a good mixture of landscape and the fun, trippy doodles and abstract parts. I find if I have one corner of the painting that's only a landscape, it kind of makes it interesting to look at. Not really in a good way, I find. I find it's almost like two different paintings. So I like to have the landscape as a background, especially for this oil one. If you've seen the first few parts, I've been doing this for a few weeks now. It took me a long time to realize that this is way different than acrylic. I knew that oil painting was, but until you actually do it, you don't realize how long certain parts take to dry. Near the halfway point, I kind of learned that I don't need to put as much paint on, but some of the areas where I was first starting, the first ever kind of time I used oil paint doing the road, I put it on really thick like it was acrylic. And even 2 weeks later when I'm doing it, it still isn't fully dry, so it's a little bit tacky. So that's taking a little bit to get used to. But I'm able to learn a little bit about how that works, and some of the areas I've been using that to my benefit and blending colors. So if I do an element where I don't really like the shape, I can change it. So that's been fun. I still have a lot to learn about oil painting, but it's been a fun experiment so far, especially doing it on a large painting where I can do the details a little bit smaller. Anyways, now I'm going through and putting in more of this red background. I went back and forth on what color I wanted to do on the right side of the cactus, but I thought it would look good red, just to go through. I'll put some other little details and elements in the red, maybe some different colors or textures, just so it's not too much red. But with the cactus, the sign, and that little, I'm not even fully sure what it is, kind of looks like an egg with different little white lines, kind of like a spider web through. I think there's enough that it's not too much red. I wanted to make sure I'm doing more Route 66 highway elements. Want to stick to the theme. That's always been a challenge for me. So I'm doing this bus and just painting it over. So we're going to see how that looks. I'm probably going to add a few other ones. I want to have more kind of Western desert themes. So I'll do that. Just going through and doing it blue. I didn't want to have a color that would clash with the background and kind of blend into those little mountains. So I'm just adding this dark blue, and it looks good compared to the landscape, so I'm happy with that. And I'll let that dry a little bit before I put in the windows. It won't be fully dry, so I'm going to put the first layer of the windows on and then probably just let it sit for a while just to make sure they're white. It's going to be okay if it's a little bit kind of a lighter blue, but I want to make sure a lot of white comes through. And I'm doing these little stars in this corner. I thought it'd be cool to give it that fun little space sky, and going through and doing some dots in the yellow color. I like doing the two colors in there. I think it just gives the eyes more to look at, and yeah, I'm happy with how this portion's turning out. I still have a lot more to do, especially with that kind of jellyfish looking creature and making sure I give that a cool look. And with the cactus, I want to do like little Christmas lights off of it. So we'll go back and do that. I went back and forth on what to do with this little sign above this building. And I think I might just make it like a little advertisement type thing, almost like a billboard, and see how that looks. I didn't want to have words in it, so just doing the lining now, making sure all the elements come through. Doing lining kind of as I see it, and yeah, it's making the elements pop out more. Now I'm adding some more detail and outlines to the clown. I want it to stand out, and I want to see if I need to add any other colors within it, just to make sure that it doesn't get washed out with the background colors. I thought I'd do lining along the roads as well, and the gray paint still hasn't fully dried, so I had to kind of work it in a little bit more. I don't want the borders around the road to be too obvious because I want it to flow to the other parts of the painting well. But as you can see, it's a little bit tough in some of the parts. I'm shocked about how long it took to dry, but yeah, it's looking good so far. I'm finally kind of happy with how it's looking and really going to challenge myself to do more of these doodles to create that cool theme. I think earlier on I would have kind of wrapped it up soon, but I want to do a lot more of these fun doodles and designs just to make it look not just completed, but something that stands out quite a bit. So I'm happy with the colors I've chosen, I'm happy with the theming, but I want to go a step further and just keep doing it. I might use some of the other details and doodles and aspects that I enjoy doing in my other paintings and see how they would look, and do more themed ones. What's nice about this one is I don't have to stick to a Route 66 theme in the sense of every single doodle I do, but because I have a theme of a little bit of space and a little bit of ocean and maybe some other little like ghost town, anything in the desert, I can have more ideas for the doodles that I want to put in the painting, and that's helping me get some ideas for what would look good within this space. I think with this one as well, in my past paintings, I wouldn't go over and do another design in the road or something without planning a space for it, but especially with the oil paints, I'm doing more just on top of other parts, and I'll do a few more of those as this painting is coming along and just see how it looks. So I'm just going in and doing the lining around this train, and I thought it would look good in that gray. I've done a lot of the lining and outlines in black, but I thought I'd switch it up. So going through and doing that, and also put in the door, I thought it would kind of look good to have that gold color. So just putting in more details on this and having some gold on the top, kind of like that mining town theme with gold. So I'm kind of happy with how that's looking. I was surprised. I didn't know if the train was going to be too small, but yeah. So I'm coloring in this little motel, the windows. I thought I would just kind of have a little color mixture and do a different color in each one of the squares. And I'll probably do that for the little camper van up top as well. I like leaving a little bit of white space with it, and I'll come back to that when I have other colors. I'm filling in some more detail in these mountains on this little kind of like poster or billboard, and put a little bit of black in it to outline it with the gray, and I'm happy with how it looks. And then now I'm doing some arrows in yellow on this highway sign. Like I said, I didn't want to have any words in it, so just adding cool little designs there. I thought that the purple sky needed something, so I wanted to do some color that's much lighter, so it has a nice contrast. I did the stars and those little colors in the other purple spots, so I'm just doing some arrows. Sometimes I like doing that where it gets the same kind of effect as a night sky or stars, but arrows gives it that kind of abstract feel where it's different. And it also just switches it up so it's not the same scenery and same little night kind of night landscape as the other part of the purple. I'm trying to just switch things up in this one and make it as interesting as possible. I'm doing these little fireworks. In a lot of other paintings I would have just done arrows or shapes or little lines, but I did fireworks in the little circus or carnival ones that I did a few paintings ago, and I like that. It kind of breaks up the space nicely, so I added some of those. I'm going to add some more in that little spot, and now I'm just adding some more detail to this little landscape within the sign. I thought I'd just do a little moon. I might not do anything across the sky. I don't want it to be too busy, but right here I thought I could do a cool little face, so I added another little shape that could be like a planet. I'm going to turn it into eyes and a face. I think it fits well within that little shape there. The yellow part above the buildings, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with, so that's a nice little thing to fill the space and make it more abstract. Then with this cactus, I thought I'd just do little lines and shapes throughout it, and it kind of looks cool, kind of like a desert theme, kind of sticking to the Route 66, and it's just a simple way to draw the eyes in. But I didn't want to do too much because I want to do something in the pink, but I don't want it to be too complex beside it, just so it doesn't take it away. I do want this one to be really busy and really chaotic and cool to look at, but I don't want to do it where it's too much and looks a little bit forced. So I'm trying to find that balance. Now I'm painting in this bus, just doing the first white layer, and it's blending into the blue because I just painted it, so I'm going to go back later, but I thought I'd have a good base color and see how it looks from there. Now I'm doing some lining around the blue part with the white, kind of like spider web looking design. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do in there, but I thought I'd do some lining just so you can see the difference from the red to the blue. Now I had an idea that I could add another theme little detail and try and create a cool face kind of front and center right on the main little highway. There's going to be a lot of cool little abstract faces throughout this, and like I mentioned before with the oil paint, I like that I can go over these areas now and kind of blend it in. Sometimes with the acrylic, depending on what paint you're using, it's hard to cover areas that you already painted, but with this it's nice, and if it's not fully dry, I'm learning to blend it in more. So I'm just adding a kind of cool little face, and I have like a wagon wheel type thing. Kind of fits the theme of like old desert kind of Route 66. As I'm letting some of that dry a little bit, I'm going and doing some lining on this face up here around these little planets that will also be eyes. Thought it'd be kind of cool to have gray, a light kind of gray white in there, do the eye the same color, and I think it's standing out nicely. I want it to be subtle enough, and I don't want it to be one of the main features of the painting, obviously, but something that if someone's looking at that part of the painting, they can see it. Then I'm putting in the detail in the other eye as well, just going and coloring it in black. And yeah, I like how it's going so far. I'm going through and doing a little bit more details like the paint in this wheel, just making sure the color is chosen wisely. I mean, it's not the worst thing if it gets washed out in that one. And with the purple as well, I'm just going in and doing the eye with this little kind of texture. I want to do more kind of cool textures as I have the oil paints, so doing some of that and going through and just painting in some of these little areas right now. For anyone who hasn't seen any of the previous videos in this series, this is part 4 of this oil painting. I wanted to do a large oil painting that takes a lot of time so I can practice as much as possible. And it's been fun. It's been a few weeks so far. When I post them, they'll probably post it all kind of in the same week, a few days in between. But it took me a few weeks to do this. Still not done. I'll probably do 1, maybe 2 more parts of the kind of final details and still have a lot of work to do on it. But I do like how it's coming together. I like the colors that I've chosen. I like how the oil paints seems brighter. I'd almost describe it as acrylic seems like it's just regular quality, and oil paint sometimes looks like HD or 4K. I don't know how to describe it, but I like the way that they pop out, and I like that the certain textures kind of show more, like that face on the little jellyfish thing. So I'm doing a cool little tree here. I wanted to do something more. I felt like that landscape was a little bit plain. And then I thought to fit the kind of Western Route 66 theme, I'm doing a cowboy hat and just kind of got the shape done. And like I mentioned, the road color still hasn't dried fully. It's a bit tacky still, so I'm going in and doing more just brown, doing a bunch of layers over the next little bit and just making sure that it stands out. I'm putting in a brown, I'm putting in yellow, and then I'll put in a dark brown. And I'll probably end up doing a little black outline as well. But I just want to make sure that you can't see any of the background through the hat. So just doing that and layering on as much as I can. But I am happy with how it's looking so far, and it's kind of cool to be able to see the oil painting come together. So thank you for watching this part, and I'll be posting the next part in the next few days.